Welcome back to Detroit's Morning After with John Anthony. Before we get to our guest, let's go to Patrick. Patrick, I got a guest on the line. Go ahead.
Hey, John, real quick, I think Trump's speech last night was masterful. He got the whole world and the whole country thinking he was going to talk about Venezuela, and he made it about how he's restoring America and all the great things he's accomplished in his short 11 months in office. I think it was brilliant.
I definitely agree with you, and I think he had to show the difference between where we were, where we're now at, and where we're headed. So I agree with you, Patrick. Thank you, brother.
You bet, buddy.
All right. I agree with that. I really do think he had to do that. And, one of the things I'm learning doing the Detroit Morning Answer show is that Michigan has a lot of great candidates that are running for office. And Tom Leonard is no stranger to Michigan voters or to governing under pressure. He served as Speaker of the House, Speaker of the Michigan House at a time when Lansing was divided. Budgets were tight and conservatives were being tested on whether they could actually govern or just simply talk. Before that, he was a prosecutor, a legislator, and a conservative voice who understood both the law and the limits of government. Now he's running for governor at a moment when Michigan is wrestling with trust in institutions, affordability, public safety, education outcomes, and whether the state is moving forward or quietly falling behind. This is not a personality contest. This is a conversation about leadership, executive judgment, and whether Michigan is ready for a reset. Tom Leonard, welcome to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, John. Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, I'm so grateful. I was with Vance Patrick, and he said, "Hey, have you had Tom Leonard on the show?" I said, "No." He goes, "You need to get him on." I said, "Okay." He goes, "When Vance says something, you can't say no to Vance, Patrick." So
that guy, he's amazing, and that guy's Rolodex it goes a lot wider than I think people realize.
I am finding that out. But, before we get into the policy or record, make the case plainly. Why are you the best candidate in this race to be governor of Michigan? For those voters who know the name but not the full story, who is Tom Leonard beyond the titles?
Yeah, well, I not only have a track record of success, having been Speaker of the House, but a former prosecutor in Flint. I was President Trump's nominee to be the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan. I've been a partner at one of the state's top law firms for the past 6 years. Grew up a blue-collar kid. My dad worked at Buick City, and I saw what happened when that plant pulled out of Flint and completely devastated that entire community, the son of small business owners. But, frankly, I believe the biggest case that we are making across the state right now, John, is the fact that we are the one campaign that has released an actual plan for turning our state around. We've been transparent about it. We've put it in writing. We've put it on our website. We've updated it. There is a comprehensive, again, transparent plan, but we are also doing so in a positive light and with a positive vision. I've been very clear to Republicans. Democrats gave us a playbook for what happens when you wake up every day and you don't have a vision, you don't let the state know where you want to take it, but instead your focus is hatred of one person, you lose. So we are waking up every day attacking problems, putting forth our vision. We don't tweet at Gretchen Whitmer. We don't tweet at Jocelyn Benson because, frankly, the problems that Michigan faces are much greater than any one person running for office, and we've got a vision, and that's what we're putting forth every day.
Here's a question. What separates I'm trying to phrase it. What separates a candidate who wants the job from the one who is actually prepared to carry the weight of it?
I think, one, you look at the track record of success. What have they done in the past 15 or 20 years? But number two, I think having conversations like this, in talking to candidates that can actually put meat on the bone, can let you know where they stand and not only what they want to accomplish, but how they are going to get there. I've seen so many candidates go out there and they talk in high-level talking points, and they can't really tell you exactly how they're going to accomplish it or what that policy plan is. That's the difference between somebody that wants the job and somebody that wants to do the job. You ask me any question about mental health or education, we're not only going to tell you where we want to go, but we're going to tell you how we do it.
What would you say to those voters who feel just exhausted by politics and those skeptical voters that say that can any governor candidate, or so if let's say you win, can you truly change the direction of the state? What do you say to that person that's exhausted and skeptical?
I would say, again, look at our track record of success and how we're conducting ourselves on this campaign with this positive vision. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I came into office as a legislator, my biggest priority as a former prosecutor, I wanted to change the preliminary exam process. That's the first step in the criminal justice process, because I saw that we were wasting millions every year in tax dollars, but most importantly, we were re-victimizing victims in this process. And when I came into town, everybody told me to stay away from it because they had tried for 2 decades to do something and it always failed. I didn't take no for an answer. And I found out that the reason nothing ever got done is because nobody actually had the District Court Judges Association and the Prosecuting Attorneys Association sit down and talk about the issue. We did that. Within weeks, we came out with a compromise that was great. And I think we only had 1 no vote in the House, and it passed the Senate unanimously. That's how you get stuff done. Driver responsibility fees, John, you may remember for decades we had these ridiculous driver responsibility fees. We had 350,000 people in the state of Michigan that could not lawfully obtain a driver's license, 75,000 of them in the city of Detroit. And for years, Lansing talked about getting it done, and it never happened. When I was Speaker, I made it a priority, and we gave 350,000 people hope. We gave them their driver's license back. That's how you restore hope. Again, a track record of success, but also a positive vision for where you want to take this state.
You know, I talked to Speaker Matt Hall a lot on this show, and I used to talk a lot to the I was a Republican legislator in Illinois, and I used to talk to the Speaker of the House, Mike Madigan, quite a bit. You've led the legislature as Speaker of the House. How does that experience uniquely prepare you for the executive authority rather than just lawmaking?
I know how to get things done. I know how to navigate the system. I know the process, got the relationships, and that's what a lot of this is. I mean, I will tell you, much of what we got done in the legislature when I was Speaker and when I was a legislator was because of relationships. Sam Singh, Democrat, he's now serves in the Senate. He's the Senate floor leader. He was the minority leader when I was Speaker. He and I did not see eye to eye on many issues, but you know what? We built trust with one another. We never lied to each other. We had a great relationship. I could hit things head on. I could tell him where we were going, and if he didn't agree with it, we would have our battle on the House floor. But the next day, we could come together, we could have a cup of coffee, and we could talk about what we could accomplish. And that's how we got things like driver responsibility fees done. That's how we got some major mental health reform done. It's having those relationships and being able to sit down and have those conversations.
You know, I've interviewed pretty much, I have another one, Michigan governor candidate, coming up, I believe tomorrow. I've interviewed everybody except John James and I believe Anthony Hudson. And, you know, they all talk about how much they love Michigan. What specifically concerns you most about the direction of the state right now that made you say, this cannot wait? I have to jump in. As I look amongst all of those who are running, I cannot wait. I have to throw my name in.
The biggest issue I think we face right now as a state, education, specifically our 3rd grade reading crisis. John, right now, 75% of our 4th graders cannot read at a proficient level. As a former prosecutor, I can tell you this. If a child has to drop out of school because they're illiterate, you have created a pipeline to a welfare check or a prison cell. This is something we have got to tackle. I had a reporter ask me a couple weeks ago, when you're the state's next governor, if you can only accomplish one thing in 4 years, what would it be? And I never hesitated. I said, we have to do something with this 3rd grade reading crisis. And when you look at what they did in Mississippi 10 years ago, the state of Mississippi was 49 out of 50 in 3rd grade reading. Yeah. This is a state that's poorer than us. It is a state that spends much less money, but with the right reforms and the right leadership, they turned that ship around, and now they are top 10 in the country. What did they do? Early assessment. They made certain that they were identifying which kids were struggling early on. Second, they invested in high-quality tutors. They put these tutors in the classroom to focus on helping these kids. I mean, you look at these teachers. If you throw 30 kids into a classroom, That teacher cannot give each kid the targeted support that that child needs. So high-quality tutors. Number three, they drew a line and they set in the sand and said, we can no longer advance a child to the fourth grade if they cannot read. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the school system. We've got to make certain that these kids can read. But most importantly, they empowered parents in the process. There was better communication. There was more resources available for them. They put together a plan. They got it done. It wasn't about spending. It was about the right leadership, the right reform, and that's what we need to do here in the state of Michigan.
You know, if you're just joining the show, we're talking to Tom Leonard, former prosecutor, legislator, Speaker of the House of Michigan, and now candidate running for governor. You know, I don't like to call, I don't like to use the word problems. Because I always look at problems as challenges. Do you believe Michigan's challenges are primarily policy failures? Are they leadership failures? Or are they just cultural failures inside government?
They are policy failures and they are leadership failures, and they are one and the same. I'll give you an example. Michigan repealed right to work 2 years ago. When we repealed right to work, Michigan was 34 out of 50 in unemployment, and we were 0.1% off of the national average. Not good enough, but guess what? Since right to work was repealed, we have done nothing but decline. We are now 49 out of 50 in unemployment. The only state beating us is California, and I believe we are now 1.4% off of the national average. That never should have happened. I'll give you another example. Last November, there were two bills introduced. We have an affordable housing crisis. We've got a skilled trade shortage. Last year, there were two bills introduced. One was going to put a substantial burden on plumbers. The other was going to put a substantial burden on electricians. The one involving plumbers made it to the governor's desk, and she signed it. The one that involved electricians died. Why? Because the environmentalists came in and said, if you pass this, we will not have the workforce available to build solar panels across this state. That tells me that there are legislators in Lansing right now that care more about building solar farms than that care about building affordable housing for our kids across this state. That is a lack of leadership.
Yeah. So, Tom Leonard, how would your administration approach not just taxes, but regulation? You mentioned workforce development. How would your administration approach this differently than the current trajectory?
Absolutely. So first, go to our website, tom4michigan.com. We have put forth our plan, our path forward, and all of this is out there. It's in writing. It's transparent. One of the biggest things that we need to do is licensure reciprocity. I'll give you an example. My uncle, 20-year journeyman electrician. He married my aunt. He moved here a couple of years ago. It took him 4 months to find a job, John. Why? Not because one wasn't available, but because the state of Michigan made him jump through all the hoops to find a job. Let's grant reciprocity. If you live in another state, let's tell the entire country, Michigan is not just going to be the easiest state in the country to create a job, but also the easiest state in the country to find a job. You show up here, you show us your certification from another state, we will put you to work immediately. You know, going back to skilled trades and education, we've got this skilled trade shortage. Why aren't we letting kids that are 17, 18 years old, seniors in high school, why aren't we letting them go to a trade school to start getting certified immediately if that's what they want to do, instead of forcing them to take another gym class they're never going to use or another foreign language class they are never going to use? These are the types of ideas that we need to put forth. These are the types of reforms that we need to get done for our state.
You know, I want to pivot to education, because parents feel like they're increasingly locked out of decisions that affect their children. What role should the governor play in restoring parental authority in education?
Well, as I mentioned, we've got to do something with this third grade reading crisis. But second, we've got to wake up every single day, and we've got to do everything that we can to empower parents. I believe more choice for parents. They ought to be able to choose which schools that their child attends, where they send them. I believe the dollars ought to follow the student. Again, I trust parents making education decisions for their children every day over the government making those decisions. We got to protect the right to homeschool. I mean, I know that there's been talk in Lansing over the last couple of years about putting a burden on homeschooling. We can't let that happen. Empowering parents every day. We have to have a governor in that office that cares more about parents than they do the teaching unions.
I want to give you an opportunity to speak directly to the voters. I'll give you about a minute and a half of why should Michigan voters send Tom Leonard to the governor's mansion instead of simply voting against the status quo?
Well, I'll give you a story. When I was a prosecutor, I drew this case. This young man had been charged with 3 10-year felonies, assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. He had shot these 3 men at a bus stop in the north end of Flint. I showed up and his attorney asked me, he said, Tom, would you take a few minutes, spend some time with this young man before we start this hearing? I went back there, John, young man, orange jumpsuit, handcuffed to the floor, tears pouring down his face. And he said, sir, I will tell you this. Every word in that police report is 100% true. What's not in there is this. What I did that day was in self-defense. I went out. I had my officer in charge go back to that bus stop. And I said, you've got to figure out if there was any video surveillance. A few hours later, he showed up with this DVD and said, Tom, you're not going to believe this. This thing was within hours of resetting.
Wow.
We put it in, and everything this young man said was 100% true. Within an hour, we had him out of jail with the other 3 arrested for falsifying a police report. I tell you that story because of this. That day, that guy wasn't looking for somebody to show up and tell him how bad the rest of the world is.
Yeah.
He wanted somebody to show up, listen to him, and go to work with real solutions, helping him solve his problem. That's what we did that day, and that's what I'm going to do every day on this campaign as the state's next governor. We're listening to people. We're bringing real solutions to the table, and we're focused every day on solving them. We're not focused on attacking other people. That's what separates me, and I believe that's why people should look at our campaign.
And Tom Leonard, where can people go to find more about your campaign and about to get educated about who you are as a candidate? Where can they find you?
Again, tomformichigan.com. That's Tom, F-O-R, Michigan.com. And look at the top, click on the link, the path forward. That's our entire plan. We are the only campaign that has put forth an entire transparent plan. And when you read that, you may not agree with everything we've put in there, but when you put it down or when you finish reading it, you're going to say, that's the guy that wants to do the job. That's what separates us.
Former prosecutor, former legislator, former Speaker of the House of Michigan, and now candidate for governor of the state of Michigan, Tom Leonard. Thanks so much for joining us on Detroit's Morning Answer.
John, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. We'll be right back. Your special. Welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer. Jim, I'm sorry I won't be able to take you because we got to go straight to break. We're done with the show, so I'm so sorry. Call back tomorrow. Riley, great job. Paul, great job. Guys, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. David W., we out. Go get the book.